A Credit Repair Guide 1. Chapter 1. Credit Repair Essays. What exactly are they looking for? Maintain a good payment history for a year or so, then ask for an increase in your credit limit. Pay more than the minimum each month. Don't go over your credit limit. Pay on time. Most credit card companies do not report delinquencies until they are 2 payments behind. There are 2 catch-22s in credit. If you pay for everything you buy immediately and have no debts, you are assumed to have no credit and are a credit risk. The more credit you have that you are paid up on is not necessarily better for your credit record. There are limits. If they think you have too much credit, they will think twice about granting you another loan or credit card. Do not have more than 11 accounts either open or closed on your credit report. The more accounts you have, the lower your credit score. Do not change your address much. Have a steady job. Make regular payments on your debts. Don't pay late. Don't default on loans. Don't get a foreclosure or repossession. Don't owe much. Have a credit score of at least 675. Don't have a lot of open accounts even if you can pay them. Don't get more credit cards than you need. Creditors don't like prompt payers who always pay within the grace period. They want to make money by charging you interest after the grace period, so don't be surprised if they reject your application for credit. Get all billing errors corrected on your credit report. Remove damaging entries. Here are steps you can take to have damaging entries removed from your credit report. Make a list of inaccurate or untrue entries that you find in your credit report. Call the credit bureau and tell the appropriate person that you want to dispute an entry you have noted on your credit report. Don't allow any credit bureau employee to talk you out of proceeding with your appeal. To avoid a distracting confrontation, don't even tell them you want to challenge. They won't initiate any action on your behalf anyway until they receive your appeal request in writing. To initiate the proper appeal procedure, ask the person you speak with to send you a dispute form. Complete the dispute form and return it to the credit bureau by certified mail. When the credit bureau receives your written dispute request, they will then attempt to verify the dispute you have indicated with the bank, lender, or creditor responsible for having the damaging information listed. You will be notified of their decision within 30 to 45 days. This technique will work for you to eliminate negative entries from your credit report for one of 2 reasons. Most creditors don't hang on to old files. They either place them in storage or throw them out. That means they won't be able to easily verify your dispute, if at all. Many other past creditors simply don't care to waste their time verifying the accuracy of a credit report that isn't relevant to making money right here and now. That is the basis of why credit repair clinics were so successful when they came on the scene. They knew from experience that by creating a flood of challenges directly to a credit bureau, sooner or later creditors who continually received inquiries would become frustrated and simply not respond. They also knew that if the credit bureau didn't receive a response from the creditor they mailed an inquiry to on your behalf within 30 days, the damaging remark by law had to be removed. Thus, a cleaned-up credit report. Beware of credit repair clinics. Credit counseling and commercial counseling services are 2 completely different things. Before you sign any papers that end up causing you even more financial harm, you better know who you are dealing with. Whereas credit counseling services are generally non-profit, commercial counseling services, clinics, may charge you 10 to 15% or more of your total debt. Meanwhile, the services provided by the non-profit agency is basically the same. Many people become desperate and will resort to anything and anyone that comes along with false promises. Then they find themselves in deeper trouble because they have handed out more money they don't have to a crook who gives them nothing in return. Change of address method. Here is another way you can eliminate damaging entries from your credit report. 1. You can magically appear in a completely different part of the country from where you really live simply by creating a new address for yourself. Just ask a friend or relative to receive your mail at their address and have everything forwarded to that address, or get a mail drop advertised in some magazines or found in phone books of the locale you are interested in under mail forwarding services. The further away, the better. All of your mail will be forwarded by the mail drop to any address you like. 2. After you have established a new address, you can request a credit report from the bureau that services that particular area. Apply with lenders that use this bureau. What you will generally find is that the credit bureau you are now dealing with will have a limited ability to verify negative items appearing elsewhere. Check bankruptcy off your credit file by checking it out. The following method of manipulation works, according to some who have used it, when combined with the precious change of address method. Just follow these next 5 steps. 1. Discuss the technique with an attorney who is willing to help. 2. Because bankruptcy is overseen by federal courts, bankruptcy files are kept in the federal archives. 3. Before you apply for credit, have your attorney request to have your file checked out from the federal archives. 4. Using your out-of-state address as described in the previous change of address method, follow the normal procedure used for appealing any damaging information appearing on your credit report. 5. As long as your attorney has your bankruptcy file, a credit reporting agency will not be able to verify its contents. If they cannot make verifications within 30 days, they must remove the damaging information from your credit report. Because credit bureaus can request an extension, your attorney may have to repeat the process several times. It becomes a question of who will tire first. According to those in the know, it's usually the credit bureau. Consumer statement. Another way to challenge and neutralize entries that appear on your credit report is by taking advantage of the 100-word consumer statement. This method allows you to tell everyone who obtains your report your side of the story. A simple statement may be all it takes to convince a bank, lender, or other creditor that a negative piece of information that is appearing in your file was nothing more than an unfortunate incident that couldn't be prevented at the time. For example, you have been laid off with hundreds of other workers and suddenly found yourself out of work. By telling your side of the story, a lender will understand why you had problems paying off your credit obligations. Be sincere, honest, and not too wordy. Never express anger or hatred. Allow creditors to give you the benefit of the doubt and the credit you deserve. Ask the credit bureau about placing a 100-word consumer statement into your file. Remove a judgment through a motion to vacate. People have reportedly removed damaging entries, such as judgments, from their credit files by using the following method. 1. Hire an attorney who is willing to help you with your goal of having damaging entries removed from your credit file. 2. Ask your attorney to file a motion of service of process for the purpose of having a damaging judgment entry removed from your credit file. It may be a weak argument for sure, but in this motion, your attorney will argue that the process was served improperly. People have reported that this technique will ultimately work in your favor. 3. By filing a motion of service of process, you are forcing a creditor to appear in court with an attorney to prove the initial legal process was done properly. 4. This legal maneuver works in your favor because, if the lender responsible for the judgment, for example, has been paid, why would he even want to go through the time and expense of showing up? 5. If you show up and the creditor doesn't, you will win your case through default. Then you will have the legal ammunition necessary to have the damaging judgment information removed from your credit file. Unconditionally force credit bureaus to quickly give you the advantage by placing positive information into your credit report. According to federal laws enforced by the Federal Trade Commission, FTC, if a credit report results in a debtor's application for credit being denied, that person has the right to add information that will show a more positive credit history. All you have to do is contact the credit bureau of your choice and ask them to contact a list of banks, lenders, or other creditors whose names you will provide, for the purpose of having the credit information they provide on you added to your credit file. There may be a small fee, but the good news is that you will practically be able to force a credit reporting agency to improve the substance of your file by putting positive entries on your credit report. The only businesses you should list are those with whom you have had a flawless credit relationship with. Contact the people on your list and let them know a credit reporting agency will be calling, or send them a questionnaire. After information has been received and verified, the Bureau can add positive items to your credit report. Some people good at hacking break into CRAs and change their credit reports, which is illegal. Some people change their identities as discussed in another section. Basic Credit Repair 1. The credit reporting agencies which, TransUnion, Experian, and Equifax, sole job is to collect information then sell that information to anyone who wants it. These credit reporting agencies do not care if the information is accurate or not. You alone or a good cheap credit repair company can file challenges on your bills until the credit reporting agencies get tired of them and take them off the report. That's the whole scheme. It will take a year or two at the least of constant challenges to the bills on the CRA. You obtain your credit report. Dispute each negative comment. It will be placed there by each of the lenders you have settled with. These will show up as charge-offs settled for less than full amount, late payments, and other negative things. Write a letter to each reporting agency saying that the information is inaccurate. The agencies by law must investigate your claim. They contact the lender to verify whether or not the information is correct. If the agency does not hear from the lender within 90 days, the negative information is removed. You repeat this over and over until the negative item is removed. Basic Credit Repair 2. The only thing anyone can do is dispute specific items on your CR and keep disputing them to the big three CRAs until they get tired of you and wipe them off your record or merely stop responding to you, whereupon those items must be eliminated by law after 30 days. Some things stay on for a long time no matter what, like a bankruptcy, late or missed payments, foreclosure, criminal conviction, and applying for life or credit insurance over $150,000. All you can do is plead your case with the big three CRAs or plead directly to the companies you owe the money to either not report your late payment to the CRAs or send them a note telling them to withdraw the complaint they filed about you. With old debts, you can often make a deal to pay half the money you owe in exchange for a letter from the creditor stating that your loan is paid in full, then send copies of it to the three big CRAs. The last thing you can do is to write a short explanation on your CR which the CRAs are obligated to put in your file through the Fair Credit Reporting Act. You can either put a positive note in or negative note. A negative note is you explaining why you made late payments in the past, something like was unemployed for 6 months last year but I am employed now. A positive note would be something like just won the $1 million lottery or just received a $10,000 a year raise. Time is the slow way to repair credit. By law, after 7 years all bad credit entries must be wiped out, 10 years for a bankruptcy. Every time you're refused credit, you're allowed one free credit report a year from the credit reporting agency they used. By law, no one can request a credit check on you without your authority, so if you request a list of who has done credit checks on you recently from the credit reporting agency, be wary of unauthorized checks. The easiest and only legal way to repair credit is to dispute certain charges even if they're in the right and you're in the wrong, because by law, the credit reporting agency or credit card company has to follow a certain procedure to check it out, and if the companies they send a letter to requesting information don't respond back, that charge goes off your credit report. First, write a letter to the credit reporting agency stating that certain listings on your credit report are erroneous and that you're disputing them because they're harming your credit report. Send it via certified return receipt requested. The CRA must investigate all disputes within a reasonable period of time by law. This reasonable period of time has a limit of about 6 weeks. During this time, the CRA is required by law to contact every company whose bill you disputed, and their job is to answer back to the CRA with a letter stating why you defaulted and are in the wrong. If they don't contact the CRA because it's too much of a minor hassle for them to bother, it must go off your credit report by law. By constantly hounding and pestering the different CRAs like this with letters of dispute, sooner or later, most bad items will go off your credit report. Most companies are too busy with real business to bother much writing letters to a CRA to answer a bill dispute, so once they don't respond to the CRA in about 6 weeks, if the CRA doesn't remove the negative mark on your CR, send them another letter to tell them you haven't heard anything from the company you're disputing the bill with, so by law, it has to go off your CR. For the companies hanging tight, call them, ask to speak to the loan collections guy, tell him you're strapped for cash but offer him a one-time settlement of between 25 to 50% of what you owe. For him, it's better than nothing, so he might go with it. This process is the only thing the for-profit credit counselors do to try to clean up your credit. This is all legal by the Fair Credit Reporting Act. Study the criteria used to determine credit scores and try to make yours as positive as possible. Think like a creditor. He wants to make money off you but won't lend you money unless he thinks you have got the stability and the morals to pay him back. You have to come off like this person. If you're asking for a large loan like a business loan or a mortgage, you're gambling with his life's security. He has to get close to you, check you out and be able to trust you. If you mess up your credit for anything, it shows lack of responsibility and lack of ethics. You're a non-payment risk. It could haunt you for a long time. You must maintain clean credit or fix it up as best as you can by paying debts, challenging debts, or manipulating conditions such that you come out clean on certain credit reports, like move to a different part of the country or manipulate your name a little bit. A bill collector is not allowed to harass, oppress, or abuse any person in the collection of a debt. If they do, get evidence, file a civil suit and you could win some big money. Some techniques suggest you challenge everything to cause paperwork, delays and screw UPS in your credit report such that they eventually erase everything just to get it off their chests. Some bills never go away, like IRS tax bills. If you get in too deep or declare bankruptcy and are found to be fraudulent, find a country without an extradition treaty with the US. And go there, generally Islamic countries and various other countries. You can use all kinds of smoke and mirrors, like try to mess up your credit report or send out checks with insufficient funds to stall time, but nothing works as well as being an old-fashioned frugal person who lives simply, doesn't have many material things nor needs them, and not much credit except for a mortgage. Beware of marriage and divorce. If you're in a relationship, the two of you must plan finances together and consider separate credit lines to have a backup if one screws up or you split up. Sometimes, simply by changing your address will mean the computers will not be able to match your name to your old address, so it could spit out a clean credit report. Either rent a post office box, get a mail drop, look under mail forwarding in the phone book, or ask a friend to use his or her address. Don't use your old address with the bad credit report as your previous address. If it comes back not on file, you have a clean slate to rebuild your credit all over again by applying for credit at department stores with proof of a job and no bad credit on your report. Other ways to try this scheme are to change your name around a bit along with your initials. Don't count on this way, but it's worth a try. Basic Credit Repair 3. Create a new credit file that doesn't have any of your previous credit on it. You could use your same name with different personal information. You could use the same personal information with a different first or last name. You could use an alias name with the same or different personal information. You're trying to fool the computer in creating a separate credit file for your new identity. There are no instant solutions. Fixing credit is a slow, tedious process. You try to repair a bad credit report because there are things on it that make you look like a non-payer/late payer and a credit risk. The logic behind all credit repair tactics are: never admit it was your fault why you didn't pay or paid late. Constantly dispute the negative points, blaming it on a billing error or some other excuse. If you're persistent, the credit reporting agencies will get tired of responding to you, and by law, a non-response for 30 days after you dispute a point means it goes off your credit report. They just get tired of you complaining, and one by one, the bad items go off your credit report. It takes time and work, but that's how you do it. Credit bureaus are not the government. By law, they answer to the government, which means if you challenge their information on you, they have to respond within 30 days. If they don't, it must go off your record. It's easier for them to restore your credit than to take the time to defend their position on paper in a letter to you, which they must by law if it's to stay on your record, so they ignore it. It goes off your record, and little by little, you can get most things wiped off this way. Your two enemies are the CRAs and your creditors, people you owe money to. You can often negotiate with the creditor to pay off a percentage of what you owe in exchange for them informing the CRAs that you are paid in full so that negative mark goes off your record. You have nothing to lose by sending them a letter and negotiating. They would rather get 20% of what you owe them than nothing. The types of creditors that report to CRAs are bank loan, collection agencies, court judgments, credit card company, medical/dental bills, mortgage lender, retail store credit card, student loans, tax liens, vehicle loan company, often the dealership. The credit repair industry is full of con artists. Non-profit credit counseling companies are supported by creditors so they try to steer you into paying off your debts. With credit repair companies, they can't give you any more information than I'm giving you here, but in order to sell you their services, many will lie outrageously to you. To me, they're all a waste of money. You don't need to pay someone extra for getting your credit report and sending repeated complaint letters to the CRAs about their billing errors or negotiating with people you owe money to. That's all they can legally do. Anything else is illegal or a lie. Refer to the Credit Repair Organizations Act. Credit repair companies cannot ask for payment before services have been rendered. Be wary that if you get erroneous information removed from your CR, it could get back on once the creditor reports it again as an outstanding debt. Many people who have similar names and social security numbers often get mixed CRS, which means some of the other person's stuff gets onto your CR. And then there's matter of identity theft that I cover elsewhere. You have to be patient, work with both the reporting agencies and creditors, and if your situation is complex, you might have to hire a lawyer to help you with the paperwork. The best thing you can do regardless of the current state of your CR is to start paying your bills on time all the time. How you have paid bills over the past year or so is more important than bad accounts from several years ago. After you have received your credit reports from each of the 3 major CRAs and identified the harmful information, your job becomes one of repair. Write out your dispute arguments and send them to the CRAs. In addition to this, you could contact your creditors directly and dispute your bills with them if you feel you have a legitimate beef. If this doesn't work, you can try negotiating with the creditors and using other techniques as outlined in the Fair Credit Reporting Act and Fair Credit Billing Act. When you dispute an item and the CRA takes it off, they're supposed to contact the creditor to remove it from their database so it doesn't get re-reported, but oftentimes they don't, so it goes back on your CR in due time. Rapid rescuing is when you present evidence to a potential lender like a mortgage lender that your current CR has something negative on it that shouldn't be there, but because CR changes are slow, it hasn't been removed yet. For a fee, the mortgage lender can get the erroneous negative information removed from the CRA. CRAs will test your patience by moving very slowly, hoping you get tired of disputing them, but you have the law on your side. Just keep hounding them within the bounds of law and most bad items will be eventually removed from your CR. Send your initial dispute letter, then 30 days later, send another one. The CRAs are required by the Fair Credit Reporting Act to respond within 30 days. If you have no response by 2 weeks after the second letter, send the Federal Trade Commission a copy of your second notice letter and a letter stating that you haven't received a response and it's now beyond the 30-day rule. Send this letter to the CRAs too so that they know you've contacted the FTC. If the CRAs send you a letter stating that they have corrected the problem by changing your CR, that's fine, but if they do nothing, you have to write another letter in stronger language disputing the billing, whereupon they have to choose between wasting time and money on an investigation or simply dropping the item from your CR. If you have a lot of bad items on your CR, it's best to divide and conquer. Dispute no more than 3 items with each CRA at one time. If one CRA clears one particular item, use that as leverage to get the other 2 CRAs to remove that item. If you dispute any more than 3 items at one time, the CRA knows you are filing a frivolous dispute to try to clear your credit. It's better if you dispute just a few items and make it look like you're an honest consumer with a legitimate beef rather than a savvy one using standard credit repair techniques that only well-educated consumers know about. When you get a few items cleared, keep sending dispute letters for all your items until most come off. The CRAs will try to stall you by sending you letters asking you to verify your identity, etc. In order to thwart this, send a copy of your social security card or a copy of a recent telephone or electric bill along with your letter. Make your complaint as specific as possible so that they don't send you back a letter telling you they don't understand your complaint. You have to be more specific. Finally, in order to prove you sent them dispute letters, send them through certified mail, return receipt requested. When you do this, the CRA knows you have legal proof you sent them a letter. If you don't do this, they know you have no proof, so they can ignore your dispute letter because they know you can't prove you sent it. The way to write the letter is to state that there is or are errors on your CR that are hampering your ability to get a car loan, mortgage, credit card, etc. Give the name of the creditor and your account number with that creditor. Explain why that negative item is erroneous. Do this for up to 3 negative items. Do not dispute more than 3 items in any dispute letter to a CRA. Oftentimes, your reason is not very important because the CRA is simply too lazy to investigate it, so they'll clean it off to get rid of that hassle. Some popular reasons are: somebody else's credit info is on your CR. You never ordered the merchandise. It wasn't the right product. They didn't credit one or more of your payments. You paid your account on time and you have the cancelled checks to prove it. Whatever you do, don't accept responsibility by saying you were sick or unemployed at the time. The CRAs only act if they are legally in the wrong. Your sob stories mean nothing to them. Creditors all basically work the same. Negotiate to pay off the past due bill at a reduced fee in exchange for having the item removed from being reported as a negative mark on your CR. Finally, if you can't get an item removed, the Fair Credit Reporting Act gives you the right at your request to include a 100-word statement in your CR to explain every negative item. Basic Credit Repair 4. Gather your unsecured debt together and obtain statements on each of your accounts. Place them in order from the lowest amount owed to the highest. Tackle the smallest accounts first for a psychological boost to pay them off. Each month, send just $5 to the lender when your bill arrives. It's a good faith offering to the lender. It will keep you out of trouble. If you stop paying a debt, the lender can win a legal judgment against you for the total amount of the debt. They can garnish wages, put a lien on a house, etc. Lenders do not like ultra-low payments. They will call you to try to get you to bring your payment up to the minimum amount of the bill. You can choose to talk to them or not. I say talk to them. Explain that you can only afford to pay $5 a month. Keep your cool. If you cannot deal with them or if they call your place of work, send them a cease and desist letter via fax, then legally they cannot call you after then. I say deal with the calls. Stick to your story that you cannot afford any more money. They are going to try to scare you with threats of late fees and interest rate increases. Over the next few months, save some money. Once you have saved about 25% of the loan, call the lender and make them an offer to pay that lump sum to settle the account. If you do this within 6 months of beginning the process, the lender might still own it. Otherwise, he has sold it to a collection agency or secondary party who has bought it and will try to collect from you. Whether you are dealing with the lender or a secondary party, make an offer to settle the account. The standard is to settle any unsecured debt for 40% of the loan. Any late fees will be removed as you settle. You may be able to settle for much less than 40% of the principal. It's all negotiation. Tell them getting something is better than getting nothing. Once the lender or collection agency settles with you, you are legally free and clear. The loan should not be on your credit report. If it is, show the paperwork to get it off. Basic Credit Repair 5. Most people want a good credit rating because they want the peace of knowing they can borrow money if they ever need it. Some people mess up their credit ratings by either not paying back loans and bills on time or not paying them back at all. If you have ever bought anything on credit, then chances are that there is a credit report on you with one of the major credit reporting agencies/CRAs that details your record of loan and bill payments and assigns you a number called a credit score that evaluates how good of a risk you are for future credit cards and loans. Before you start trying to repair your credit, get your credit report and have a look at it. Simply contact one or all three of the major CRAs asking for your credit report. If you were recently turned down for credit, you are entitled to one free copy of your CR from the CRA that the place you applied to for the loan or credit card used. If not, you have to pay a few dollars for your CR. You can go to freecreditreport.com for one free copy per year. Too many requests for your credit history by anyone including you makes it look like a lot of people are checking you out, that you are applying for a lot of loans and have probably been turned down by some, so this factors into your credit report negatively. A lot of requests for your credit report. When you get a copy of your credit report, look it over good and check for discrepancies, things you don't agree with. There is room for lots of mistakes, particularly if your name is similar to the name of someone having credit problems or filing for bankruptcy. Note any mistakes carefully, then write them all out with an explanation of why they are wrong and send it off to the CRA. They have to respond to you in a timely manner. If the add-on this blemish goes off your record by law. Even if your credit is good but you have a lot of cards, you can be denied credit based on this fact that you have a lot of cards. Every time you are denied credit, regardless of the reason, it goes on your CR negatively. If you have bad credit, in order to try to rebuild it, pay all your bills on time, try to get secured credit cards and department store credit cards, use them and pay your credit card bills promptly in order to build up your credit reputation again. Take a look at the credit inquiry section of your CR. It lists every person or company that has requested a copy of your credit report. Legally speaking, no one can run a credit check on you unless you have applied for credit or a loan with them. You give consent for them to do so by applying for credit with them. If you haven't applied for credit from some place and there is a notation that they requested your credit history, then they are violating the Fair Credit Reporting Act. Contact every business that ran a credit check on you without your consent, tell them they are in violation of the Fair Credit Reporting Act and demand that they remove it immediately, or else you will file charges with the district attorney. After you clean up your credit report with the major credit companies, do the same with the smaller credit bureaus in your area. The slow method to repair your credit is simply time. After several years, many blemishes on your credit record are taken off due to the statute of limitations. Then you can start with small loans or credit cards to rebuild a credit history. All bad information on your credit report is required by law to be removed from your credit history after 7 years, except for bankruptcy, which can stay on as long as 10 years. If you see something on your CR older than 7 years, request that it be removed immediately. Dispute every mistake you find on your report. You can add favorable items to your credit report. If you have a good payment history with a particular company or store, you can ask that they contact the credit bureaus with files on you and add that fact to your file. If you get a better job or buy a house, these things help with your credit history. The most effective legal way to repair your credit is to compose a letter to every big and small credit bureau in your area where you believe you are on file, stating that you disagree with certain listings on your CR. When you do this, by law, the CRA must now contact every company you named with your claim of an erroneous report and give them the option to challenge your claim. They have a time limit to do this, about 45 days. Some will challenge it, some won't. Those that don't bother challenging it will forfeit their right to keep that negative report on your credit file, so all these will be wiped out. Simply repeat the process, sending another letter challenging the very same blemishes on your record you challenged a month or 2 ago. Keep doing this until all your charges are gone. Mail all your letters to the CRAs by certified mail. This process is completely legal by the Fair Credit Reporting Act. Sometimes you can clean up your credit record by changing addresses. Some items will disappear from your credit record just by virtue of doing this. When department stores and credit card companies do a credit check on you, your name will not come up because of your new address. Some might extend a small amount of credit to you as a new client with no credit history. There are computer hackers on the internet who offer the service of going into the major CRA files to remove the bad things on your CR. You can find them by picking the right terms and plugging them into search engines. Go to hacker websites and ask around. Another way is to change your identity.